Some daughters will do anything for mom.
Her mom taught her everything she knew.
And that's not always a good idea.
We just knew in our heart of hearts that she did that. I was shocked.
Something was wrong with this picture.
In the late 1990s, in Hawthorne, Florida.
Scribble competition.
It's another school day. But 6-year-old Guinevere doesn't have to catch a bus. Her 27-year-old mom, Stephanie, homeschools her, while her husband, Bill, is away working for weeks.
He had a lot of jobs where he would have to go out of state sometimes and work.
Who's a happy girl?
The younger years of their marriage, he was gone a lot.
That means mom and daughter live in their own little world.
Gwen basically was brought up being homeschooled and not really having too much interaction outside of the house with her mom.
After 10 years, the arrangement turns sour.
Did you pay those bills I sent the money for?
Bill has been sending his wages home to provide for the family.
I sent you the rent money.
But the money seems to disappear.
What are you accusing me of?
As sister-in-law Brenda Hudnall remembers.
He worked very hard for his family. He worked out of state in order to provide what he thought would be a good income for them. He'd come home and there would be no money. The bills wouldn't be paid.
Stephanie suffered from what I call the princess syndrome. She contributed nothing to their marriage or their life except misery.
By this time, Gwen is 17 and has a younger sister. And mom tells them it's all Dad's fault.
Your father doesn't love us enough to keep a roof over our heads.
I sent you more than enough.
Stop blaming Mom. It's not her fault.
She led them to believe that their father was abusive towards her, didn't want to take care of them, that he had money, he wouldn't help them with anything. Basically put all of her thoughts in their mind.
There is no indication that Bill ever abused or neglected his children.
Stephanie isn't just indoctrinating the children against their father. She won't even let them help when he suffers a stroke in 2011.
Mom? Something's wrong with Dad.
He had the stroke in their living room, and they sat there and watched him.
Should we call 911?
No.
Stephanie refused to let them call 911.
Bill recovers, but now knows the danger he faces in his own house. He confides in his brother.
Tim, if anything ever happens to me, you'll take care of the children, won't you?
Bill said to my husband, if anything should happen to me, would you please promise me you'll take care of my children? And Tim said, of course I will. Bill, what's going on? He says, we'll talk later.
Goodbye, Grace.
Bill decides to move out. He wants to end his marriage, but not the relationship with his children.
You can come visit anytime.
Bill wanted to stay in town so that he could see his children, whom he loved. But Bill had a mean and vicious spouse that was troubled.
Got anything?
Stephanie continues to undermine him.
They would spend time with their dad, and their mother would pick them up.
I miss you.
Love you, Daddy.
That they could not tell their dad they loved him in front of her. because on the ride home, she would really give them a hard time.
I cannot believe you said you loved him after all he has done to us.
How can you tell him that you love him as awful as he is? And really made them hate him.
He has to pay.
Stephanie is sowing the seeds for a permanent separation.
Bill should have left and stayed far, far away. Not living with Stephanie was the first step, but he didn't go far away enough.
2011, Hawthorne, Florida. For most of her life, 19-year-old Gwen Hudnall is under the control of her mother, Stephanie.
Okay. Great. I'll let you know. Thanks, Dad.
Now her father, Bill, is trying to break the unhealthy dependence.
You got me a job.
Guinevere was getting ready to go on this job with her dad,
You can't take it.
and Stephanie stopped her. I believe that was basically Stephanie trying to stop Guinevere from becoming self-sufficient, but still depending upon her.
Then Stephanie does something odd.
Maybe you'd like to stay over with your dad.
On June 9th, 2011,
That'd be lovely.
she ceases hostilities and allows Gwen to stay over at her dad's place for the first time in months. Little does Dad know, his daughter is a Trojan horse for his vindictive wife.
She felt an obligation of some sort.
I'm gonna turn in.
She did it to make her mother pleased with her.
Good night.
She waited for him to go to bed. She got the axe off the back porch, came around to his bedroom, and just started hitting him with the axe.
When his body was expiring, it made a noise, and it scared Guinevere. And so she continued to hit him till she knew that he was dead. And
Gwen decapitates her father.
There was blood everywhere, there was brain matter everywhere, bone. It was pretty gruesome.
Although Gwen wields the pickaxe, it is all on Stephanie's command.
Stephanie Hudnall is a violent psychopath who manipulated her own daughter to murder.
It's all over the bed.
The next day,
Blood.
Stephanie calls 911, pretending she's just found Bill's body.
I started interviewing Stephanie, and she was very emotional. It got to the point, it was so much, it was obvious that it was a put-on. It was too overly exaggerated emotion.
Detective Sandy Myers smells a rat, and so does Bill's family.
we were turning them all towards Stephanie because we just knew in our heart of hearts is that she did that. And the more we thought about it, the more we knew.
Did you kill your husband, Stephanie?
No.
Police interview both mother and daughter. They get a confession, but not the one they expect.
Mom, I told him the truth. I told him everything.
I was very surprised that it was Gwen that had actually done the act and not Stephanie.
I was shocked because I really, truly did not believe that child could do that.
Guinevere gets a shock of her own.
I don't know what she's talking about.
She said, "Mom, I told him." And Stephanie was acting like she didn't know what she was talking about.
Stephanie's already sacrificed her husband. Now she'll sacrifice her daughter.
She's basically trying to throw her own daughter under the bus.
At that moment, Guinevere became an emotional orphan.
Reality struck Guinevere right then, right there, that how could she lie like that? How could she do that to me?
Police discover Stephanie wanted her husband dead to receive his Social Security benefits. Betrayed in the cruelest way, Guinevere Hudnall stands trial for murder alongside her mother, Stephanie. In September 2012, both are convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison.
Gwen truly wants nothing to do with Stephanie anymore after it was all said and done. She realized in the end that she had been manipulated. Obviously, by then it's too late.
Stephanie used her daughter as a weapon in her war against her husband.
I believe that she had been planning this for a very, very long time.
A common ploy of users and abusers, which is what Stephanie was, is to isolate their victims from their family, school, friends. And in a sense, Guinevere was Stephanie's victim.
Becoming a mother.
Mom!
He really wanted his mum to love him.
Don't be a baby. Come here!
Doesn't guarantee a loving heart.
She was just beside herself with rage.
I wish I'd never had
One
you.
mom takes pleasure from pain.
It was torture. She enjoyed it.
2004, in the country town of Tamworth, Australia. 23-year-old Rachel Fitzner is a single mom, caring for her 4-year-old daughter. When her landlady's son, Paul Shillingsworth, walks into her life, Rachel sees new hope.
They met, they started seeing each other. Paul made her feel loved. And, you know, underneath everything, that was important to Rachel.
The couple moves to Sydney together, and in 2005, they have a son, Dean. But instead of bringing them together, parenthood pushes them apart because Rachel is plagued by old demons.
It appears that Rachel was raised in a chaotic environment. Alcohol abuse, physical violence, drug abuse. And that's exactly what Rachel perpetuated in her own adulthood.
Look at me when I'm talking to you!
She had an enormous anger problem and a really, really, really short fuse.
Rachel fuels her fury with illicit drugs.
Rachel was a cannabis user, so she used marijuana from her late teens.
One of the things Rachel did, in addition to the usual suspects of drugs, that a lot of kids don't do, she sniffed solvents. This can cause brain damage. Brain damage can lead to violence.
Rachel always had a tendency to be violent and a tendency to be angry and a tendency to be unable to control her impulses. So what drugs did was just completely enable that.
While Rachel is high on drugs, Paul hits the bottle.
What do you think you're doing?
It's a match made in hell.
And this was a love-hate relationship. At times they would be passionately on together. At times, you know, they'd walk out in a huff. It was an unstable, volatile relationship. Rachel was certainly not the sort of person who would, you know, just shut up and take it.
Go to bed!
The volatile couple finally splits in 2006. And Rachel is left holding the baby.
Really, right from the beginning, the relationship between Dean and his mother Rachel was a troubled one.
Dean was a really sweet little boy, a little toddler who liked Superman outfits.
In Rachel's eyes, Dean is no superhero. He's a villain. A constant reminder of her violent ex-boyfriend.
Every time she looked at Dean, she saw Paul, and she wanted to enact her revenge on Paul.
She starts starving Dean of food and affection.
You're fat enough. Get out of here.
Dean would sometimes try and get affection from her, and she'd say he was clingy and would push him off or even smack him.
Dean's grandmother, Anne, decides enough is enough.
She saw that Rachel didn't like Dean, that he wasn't being cared for properly.
In late 2006, Anne wins full-time custody of her grandson, and the toddler finally gets the love he's been craving.
Dean got a lot of good stuff from his grandmother when he was with her. Love, attention, stroking, petting.
He was beautifully cared for. He was a happy little child. He had a lovely relationship with his grandmother. He was growing up perfectly normally.
But Rachel's rage takes over. She won't give in to her enemies.
She wasn't prepared to let Dean's father and his grandmother have custody of Dean, basically just to spite them. Not because she wanted Dean, not because she loved Dean, but because she hated them.
I'm here.
In July 2007, Rachel takes her son for her regular visitation. This time, she won't be returning him.
Rachel took Dean from his custodial grandmother and kept him. That was a warning sign. She was non-compliant and defying a court order. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't.
Shut up or I will make you shut up. Get out.
Rachel wants her son back for one reason: to resume his suffering.
He did the tiniest thing to irritate her, even just to say, "Mummy, mummy." She thought he was clingy and she'd throw him outside.
And you'd have this child who was only 2.5 years old at the time, clamouring to get back in, begging his mother to allow him to come back inside.
Little Dean endures 4 months of torment, but it won't appease his malicious mother. Rachel's vile temper is about to explode.
I wish I'd never had you.
What Rachel did to Dean was more than abuse. It was torture. She enjoyed it.
October 11th, 2007, Sydney, Australia.
Hey, how's it going?
Rachel Fitzner takes her 2-year-old son, Dean, on a rare outing to a friend's place.
Don't you eat anything.
Dean was pretty much an annoyance to Rachel, and not just an irritation, but a thorn in her side.
Rachel hates living with her son, but she won't live without him. She is keeping Dean to spite her ex-boyfriend, Paul, and his mother, Anne.
She was just beside herself with rage. Rage not only at Dean and through Dean to his father.
Oh, every time I look at him, I see his Paul.
He's just a kid.
When the starving toddler stares at Rachel's friends eating lunch, he doesn't know he's on a knife's edge.
They had burgers, noticed that Dean was clearly hungry. He must have been looking at them intently, poor little thing.
There you go, buddy.
So one of these men gave him a hamburger, and the boy started to eat. Rachel came into the room, saw her 2.5-year-old son eating a hamburger, and went ballistic, absolutely ballistic.
I said don't eat anything!
And when this little boy accepted food from people that he barely knew, I think she just became consumed with rage, took him home immediately.
Rachel decides to deal with Dean, away from prying eyes.
I warned you not to eat anything.
So when they got home, Rachel's fury hit fever pitch.
Wish you'd just go away! I hate you.
Rachel walks away, then returns for round 2.
After Rachel shook Dean the first time, she had time to think about what she was doing and stop. But she thought about what she was doing and went back and finished him off.
The mother wraps her son in plastic
and shoved him into the suitcase. And we don't know how he died. He might have died from the shaking. He might have died from the asphyxiation. He might have been still conscious when she put him in that plastic bag and put him into the suitcase.
Rachel then takes a stroll to the local park to wash all her cares away.
And then took the suitcase to a nearby duck pond and threw it as far as she could into the duck pond.
And no doubt hoped it would disappear.
But one person is missing Dean. His grandmother, Anne.
It's Anne Coffey.
And when Anne Coffey started checking, trying to find out where Dean was,
I'm worried.
by that stage, Dean had already died.
Authorities can't find Dean until Rachel's dark secret resurfaces from the duck pond.
The police put 2 and 2 together and realised that this body that had been found in the dam was the body of Dean Shillingsworth.
The police go straight to Rachel Fitzner. At first, she claims she shook Dean by accident.
Rachel says she realized what she had done and performed CPR for about 10 minutes. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
I said don't eat anything!
Family and friends say Rachel has been tormenting Dean for months. In August 2009, Rachel Fitzner finally confesses to murder. She is sentenced to 25 years, 6 months in prison. The tiny superhero could not battle his own mother's wicked rage.
There was a grandmother out there, desperate to look after him, desperate to love him, desperate for the day when she would be reunited with him.
I believe Rachel wanted Dean dead. She said she'd kill him before she'd give him back to his loving grandmother. Well, she got what she wanted.
It was really the union of 2 incredibly troubled people that led to this tragedy. When they got together, doomsday was inevitable.
when evil lurks behind a friendly face.
She could be sweet and kind and caring.
Everybody around her liked her a lot.
Your services aren't needed anymore.
Your closest ally can become your enemy.
You can leave now.
But the mask would slip off occasionally.
And there is nowhere to hide.
I'm sure that this was the worst nightmare that anyone could have.
San Francisco in the 1950s. Iva is a vibrant, vivacious 30-year-old.
This is my friend Beryl. It's so nice to finally meet you.
But behind her smile lies sadness.
So you're not from San Francisco then?
I was born in Munich. I'm Jewish. We had to flee.
Oh my.
The German immigrant has had a tough childhood and has just emerged from an abusive marriage.
They thought that she was a very strong, engaging person who had put up with a lot and survived. They said she's a survivor.
In 1954, Iva turns her life around when she marries 53-year-old Ralph Kroger.
Ralph was a rancher from Colorado.
Hello, darling.
Very stoic. They described him as a Gary Cooper type.
I'm hungry.
Didn't have much to say, very hardworking.
With Ralph bringing home the bacon, Iva plays homemaker.
She was also a very dutiful wife. She was extremely loyal to Ralph, and she was apparently a very good housekeeper. She kept everything neat and clean.
But being a housewife isn't enough for Iva.
So lovely of you to have me, Mildred.
My pleasure.
She has dreams of running her own business, like her new friend, Mildred Arneson.
What's that?
She had been a very savvy businesswoman. She'd invested in real estate, run a number of motels, and was quite good at it.
Mildred manages a motel in nearby Santa Rosa.
Mildred was pretty successful, and she had over $50,000 in real estate. Now, that real estate would be worth over $1 million today.
She also finds time to care for her ex-husband, Jay.
Mildred's husband, Jay Arneson, was a major in the Army who had advanced Parkinson's disease, and she was caring for him. He could barely walk, he was in a wheelchair, he was very incapacitated.
But Mildred has a problem.
Santa Rosa Avenue, where the motels were, was essentially bypassed by the freeway. So the businesses were not doing as well, and she was losing money and she wanted out. She wanted to go down to Brazil, buy some land. Land was apparently cheap. She could become a big sort of land baron down there.
Mildred doesn't have the cash to buy the land. So Iva offers her a deal.
I've always wanted to go to Brazil.
Why don't you sell the motel?
Is it possible?
In fact, I'll give you $10,000. Just sign over the motel to me as collateral.
Mildred apparently completely trusted Iva. Completely.
One after each meal.
On December 15th, 1961, Mildred leaves for her new life in South America.
She was enthusiastic. She's embarking on a new adventure. She's rid of Jay and start a new life. It was all gonna be grand. It was all gonna be great. She's gonna make a lot of money and fortunes, and it's gonna be wonderful.
Iva is finally at the helm of her own business.
Iva returned the next day to the motel. She told everyone that Mildred had left for South America.
Where is Mildred?
Relaxing under a sombrero somewhere. It's my motel now.
And that she had sold Iva the motel.
I think Iva wanted to be Mildred. She'd started living the life that Mildred had.
But there's a fly in the ointment. Mildred's ailing ex-husband, Jay.
Jay Arneson was still at the motel. He needed constant care. He had Parkinson's. So he was with Iva for the next month in the motel.
Your services aren't needed anymore.
The ambitious businesswoman
You can leave now.
has no patience to play nursemaid.
There's no question in my mind that Iva never had plans on caring for Jay. Iva wasn't going to put up with any of that.
She decided that Jay was a liability and he needed to disappear soon.
Jay was a marked man.
Santa Rosa, California, January 1962. Motel manager Iva Kroger has an unwanted guest. 68-year-old Parkinson's victim, Jay Arneson.
It's very likely that Jay knew what was in store for him, but there was nothing he could do about it.
Iva decides to take Jay for a drive.
She took Jay in a car, pretending to take him to the hospital. He was never seen again.
Instead, Iva takes the defenseless man to the basement of her home in San Francisco.
The Parkinson's took away all of his power, all of his muscle ability, so he could only sit and watch helplessly as she planned to kill him. I'm sure that this was the worst nightmare that anyone could have.
Iva strangles him with his own belt.
He was not able to raise his arms to defend himself at the very last few moments of his life.
Iva has prepared for this. She's already dug Jay's grave.
Iva is a psychopath. She is a user and abuser of other people. She thinks their stuff belongs to her. She just hasn't acquired it yet.
Now, Iva has what she wants, her own business with no strings attached.
A lot of people thought Iva Kroger was crazy, but Iva was crazy like a fox.
She was greedy. Money drove everything in what she did.
But Iva's greed will be her undoing.
I have already paid it.
If you don't pay me the money you owe me right now, I'm gonna have to rip it out.
She had a very strong desire not to pay for anything.
Fine.
Iva had a fight with a man over money she owed him and pulled a gun on him.
Whoa, take it easy, lady.
Sign.
A lucky escape for the tradesman turns into a problem for Iva when he contacts the police.
Iva lacks one characteristic of the classic psychopath. She was not always cool, calm, and collected, and that put her in the sights of law enforcement.
Iva feels the heat and goes on the run. And the police soon learn this humble housewife is not what she seems.
It's hard to know much about Iva Kroger's early life because she lied constantly. It's really impossible to separate truth from fiction from anything she said.
Iva is a con woman with a string of aliases. She is not even a German immigrant.
She lied with complete conviction. She could be standing over a body with a smoking gun, and she would deny that she had done it.
The police search Iva's basement after a tip-off, while her 60-year-old husband, Ralph, watches in silence.
After about a half an hour, they saw a foot sticking up, and they uncovered the body of Jay Arnson.
I don't know nothing about it.
And they said, so, what do you say now?
Where's your wife, Ralph? No idea. She's the only one to get me out of this.
He says, I know this looks bad, but I didn't know anything about this.
Ralph denies all knowledge of Jay's murder.
You might want to look over there.
Then he shows police another freshly dug hole.
And when they dug that patch up, they found a large steamer case. Inside was the body of Mildred.
Mildred Arneson never made it to South America. On December 15th, Iva drives Mildred to the airport, but on their way, they make a pit stop.
She made the most fateful error of her life in going back to Iva's house.
I can't see anything.
Sometimes it slides a little.
Death by strangulation of a woman to a woman is very, very unusual. Iva was very sure of herself. Strangulation is not easy.
She doesn't want Mildred to resurface, so Iva seals her tomb.
And now there was a statewide manhunt for Iva Kroger.
A few weeks later, Iva Kroger is arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Her husband, Ralph, is also charged with murder. Prosecutors say he must have known something about the attacks.
Ida was a guiding criminal mind, and that without her, Ralph wouldn't have been in that situation. Even if he had suspicions, just a suspicion, it was his obligation, his moral obligation to come forward.
On March 26, 1963, Ralph Kroger is found guilty of first-degree murder. He is sentenced to life and later dies in prison.
It is likely that he was involved, but probably completely under her control.
His puppet master, Iva Kroger, is also found guilty of murder. She gets life, but is released after 13 years.
She fooled every single person around her, including her husband. You can't fool that many people without having an engaging personality.
The sweet and kind and caring Iva was a false front. That was to fool people. That was pretending. Iva is a killer.